Have you ever pictured yourself growing older, moving in with your grown children, imagining cozy evenings and shared expenses? I did too, until I turned 71 and made that choice. It cost me my financial security, my peace of mind, and almost destroyed the relationships I held dearest. I'm going to reveal the harsh realities of why moving in with your kids after age 70 might be the riskiest decision you'll ever make. Stay with me to the end, because I'm sharing 5 crucial dangers you need to be aware of, along with actionable steps to shield yourself from the nightmare I'm currently living. Let's dive in. Number 1. Financial disaster, the hidden cost of cohabitation. Have you ever considered that moving in with your children could deplete your life savings in mere months, leaving you financially vulnerable and dependent? The silent financial erosion happens more often than people realize, catching even the most financially savvy seniors off guard. Top-tier financial advisors specializing in elder planning consistently warn that merging households with adult children creates a breeding ground for financial exploitation, misunderstandings, and irreversible loss. It's not just a possibility, it's a pattern supported by alarming statistics and real-life stories that should make anyone pause before packing their bags. The National Center on Elder Abuse paints a disturbing picture. Over 90% of financial abuse cases targeting seniors are committed by family members, with adult children being the most common offenders. This isn't about strangers preying on the vulnerable, it's about the people you trust most, your own family, knowingly or unknowingly crossing lines that can leave you penniless. Take Elaine's story as a cautionary tale. At 72, Elaine made what seemed like a sensible decision. She sold her condo in Arizona for $195,000 and moved in with her son, Drew, his wife, and their 2 children in Oregon. She envisioned a warm, multi-generational household where she could enjoy her golden years surrounded by family. Drew, ever the charmer, suggested she deposit the proceeds from her house sale into a joint bank account with him, arguing that it would simplify paying for shared household expenses like groceries, utilities, and the mortgage. Elaine, trusting her son implicitly, agreed without hesitation. Fast forward 8 months, and the reality was drastically different. Drew had quietly siphoned off nearly $60,000 of Elaine's money. He justified it to himself. $20,000 went to prop up his failing small business, $15,000 covered a kitchen renovation he claimed would benefit everyone, and another $25,000 bought a shiny new SUV for the family. When Elaine, alarmed by the dwindling balance, mustered the courage to ask where her money had gone, Drew's response was a mix of defensiveness and guilt-tripping. "Mom, you should be grateful we're taking care of you," he snapped. "Do you know how expensive it is to have you here?" By the time Elaine fully grasped the situation, her nest egg, her security, was completely wiped out. Worse, she had no legal recourse because she'd willingly put her funds into the joint account, a decision that seemed so reasonable at the time. You might be thinking, that's a sad story, but it could never happen to me. My kids would never do that. Don't be so sure. Even in the most loving, well-intentioned families, financial boundaries have a way of dissolving when you share a roof. The dynamic shifts subtly at first, then overwhelmingly. Are you expected to pay rent to help out, or perhaps contribute a chunk toward the mortgage because you're part of the household now? Who's footing the bill for groceries when you're eating at the same table, or utilities when you're using the same heat and lights? What about home repairs, say a leaky roof or a broken furnace? And then there are the bigger asks. Your grandchild's college tuition is looming, and suddenly there's an unspoken expectation that you'll chip in because, well, you have family and you've got that retirement savings sitting there. The pressure to contribute financially doesn't just knock, it barges in relentlessly, wearing down your resolve and your bank account. The truth is that cohabitation blurs the lines between generosity and obligation, and once those lines are crossed, it's nearly impossible to redraw them without conflict. Misunderstandings turn into resentment, and what starts as a practical arrangement can end in financial ruin. But it doesn't have to be that way. Here's a smarter path forward. Protect yourself by maintaining ironclad financial independence. Even if you want to stay close to your children, never, under any circumstances, combine bank accounts with your adult kids, no matter how much you trust them or how noble their intentions seem. Joint accounts are a legal and emotional minefield, giving them unrestricted access to your funds and leaving you vulnerable to decisions you can't undo. Instead of moving in, consider a different approach. Live independently in a smaller, more manageable home or apartment near your family. Proximity lets you enjoy the closeness, grandkids popping over, family dinners, without sacrificing your financial autonomy. Set clear expectations up front. If you choose to contribute to their expenses, do so on your terms with specific amounts and purposes agreed upon in writing. Consult a financial planner or elder law attorney to safeguard your assets, perhaps through a trust or other protective measures. The goal isn't to distrust your family, it's to preserve your security and your dignity, ensuring that your golden years aren't overshadowed by a preventable financial catastrophe. Elaine's story isn't unique, but it doesn't have to be yours. As we continue, if you're finding this information helpful, consider how staying informed with regular updates on similar topics could benefit you in the long run. Number 2. Loss of independence, the silent killer. Picture this: after a lifetime of calling your shots, decades of waking up when you please, eating what you crave, visiting friends on a whim, or tinkering in your garage until midnight, you wake up one day to find this freedom slipping through your fingers. Suddenly, you're asking permission for things you've done without a second thought since you were a young adult. The psychological wreckage left in the wake of the shift is nothing short of devastating, a slow-motion disaster that dismantles a person from inside out. Gerontologists, psychologists, and aging specialists have tracked this phenomenon with growing alarm, documenting how a precipitous loss of independence in older adults sparks a domino effect of catastrophic health declines. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, a leading voice in the field and director of geriatric psychology at Northwestern University, puts it in chilling terms: when seniors lose the ability to govern their own choices, the consequences are swift and severe. We observe dramatic upticks in clinical depression, a steep drop-off in cognitive function, and disturbingly, a spike in mortality rates. The toll is so profound it mirrors the impact of a debilitating physical disease, yet it's often invisible until the damage is irreparable. Consider the story of Victor, a 75-year-old widower who became a reluctant case study in this silent crisis. For 3 years after his wife's passing, Victor had thrived in this quiet way. He lived alone in the house they'd shared, a modest bungalow where he cultivated a small vegetable garden out back and kept one deck of cards on the kitchen table for his weekly poker nights with old friends. He'd mastered a routine that suited him: grilled cheese at odd hours, late-night radio shows, and the freedom to hop in his car and visit a buddy whenever the mood struck. But his daughter, Samantha, couldn't shake her worry. She saw his solitude as a risk, his creaky knees as a liability. After months of gentle prodding, she convinced him to leave his home and move into her basement apartment, a granny flat she'd fixed up with a fresh coat of paint and a second-hand sofa. It seemed like a perfect compromise. He'd be near family, safe under her watchful eye, and spared the burden of maintaining a house alone. Victor, trusting her love and logic, packed his bags. The reality hit him like a slow rolling tide. Within weeks, he realized this wasn't his home, it was an extension of Samantha's. Want to invite his poker crew over? He had to run it by her first, coordinating around her family's schedule. His grandchildren, adorable but oblivious, treated a space like their personal clubhouse, barging in without knocking to raid his candy stash or sprawl on his floor with their toys. Cooking became a negotiation. He couldn't fry bacon at 9:00 p.m. anymore because the smell drifted upstairs and disrupted the kids' bedtime. His car sat unused in the driveway. Samantha insisted on driving him everywhere, citing his shaky hands on the wheel. She took over his pillbox, doling out his meds with a cheerful, "I've got this, Dad," and started eyeing his fridge, swapping his beloved salami for kale and lean chicken for his har. Even his late-night runs of mashed drew a raised eyebrow. Shouldn't he be getting more rest? 4 months later, Victor was unrecognizable. The man who'd once radiated a quiet zest, planning fishing trips, swapping stories over a coffee, tending his tomatoes, was extinguished. He stopped reaching out to friends, his phone gathering dust on the nightstand. He'd sit for hours in a recliner that wasn't his, staring at the beige walls of a basement that felt more like a cell. His spark had been snuffed out, replaced by a hollow resignation. When he finally saw his doctor, the diagnosis was grim. Severe depression had taken hold, and his memory and focus were crumbling at a pace that stunned even the seasoned physician. What started as a daughter's well-intentioned plan had stripped Victor of the autonomy that anchored his identity. Don't think this couldn't happen to you. It's a trap that ensnares countless seniors, often with the softest of landings. The descent is subtle, almost imperceptible at first. It begins with a caring suggestion: "Let me set an alarm for your pills so you don't forget." Then it's a nudge toward oversight: "We'll pick up your groceries this time, save you the trip." Soon they're filtering your mail, questioning your choice of company: "Is that guy still a good influence?" And scheduling your days like you're a toddler in their care. Before you know it, they're deciding when you eat, where you go, and who you see, all wrapped in a bow of "we're just looking out for you." It's a gradual slide from a sovereign adult to a dependent figure in someone else's narrative, a regression to childhood under the roof you helped them build. And the kicker? They mean well. That's what makes it so hard to push back. So how do you shield yourself from this creeping theft of self? You guard your independence with the ferocity of a lion protecting its territory. If being near family is the priority, don't default to the spare room. Seek out alternatives that keep you in the driver's seat. Independent living communities for seniors are a gold mine of possibility. Your apartment, your rhythm, with communal spaces and support staff nearby if you need a hand. Picture a cozy one-bedroom with your favourite armchair, where you can brew coffee at 3:00 am if you damn well please, and no one's knocking to check your cholesterol. But go further. Rent or buy a small place within a stone's throw of your kids' studio apartment, a tiny cottage, even a converted garage with a hot plate and a bed. Any space that's yours alone trumps a corner in someone else's kingdom. If your wallet's thin, don't let that stop you. Options exist for the resourceful. Dig into senior housing subsidies. Local governments and non-profits offer programs to offset rent or mortgage costs for older adults, often with income-based eligibility that's easier to meet than you'd think. Or consider a less conventional path, shared housing with other seniors. Split a house with a couple of like-minded peers, each with your room, a shared kitchen, and the mutual understanding that no one's playing warden. It's not just about affordability, it's about preserving the dignity of choice. The effort to secure these setups through searching, applying, moving pales in comparison to the soul-crushing weight of losing your freedom. Victor's fate isn't an anomaly, it's a cautionary tale echoed in countless homes, a grim reminder of what's at stake. Independence isn't just a luxury, it's the lifeblood of vitality in your later years. Let it slip away and you risk more than inconvenience, you risk yourself. Fight for it, claw it back if you must, because once the flame flickers out, rekindling it is a war few have the reserves to wage. You have terms, your life, your rules hold them tight, no matter how many candles light your next kick. Considering the importance of preserving your autonomy, you might find ongoing insights into maintaining a fulfilling and independent lifestyle exceptionally valuable. Number 3. Family relationship destruction. Were you aware that choosing to move in with your adult children ranks among the most expeditious and devastating methods to permanently fracture the precious bonds you share with them? This consequence, perhaps more than any other, inflicts a profound and lingering emotional wound that can persist for years, if not decades. According to family therapists who dedicate their careers to studying the complex dynamics of multi-generational households, a staggering 70% of these living arrangements culminate in severe, often irreparable damage to familial relationships. Dr. Samuel Livingston, a renowned family therapy researcher affiliated with Boston University, offers a sobering insight. When elderly parents take up residence with their adult children, the fundamental nature of the parent-child relationship undergoes a seismic shift. Despite the most meticulously crafted pre-arranged agreements designed to mitigate potential conflicts, an insidious resentment inevitably festers on both sides, eroding the foundation of trust and affection that once thrived. To illustrate the gravity of this phenomenon, consider the heart-wrenching case of Dorothy, a 74-year-old widow who experienced this relational collapse firsthand. Following a minor fall that compromised her confidence in living alone, Dorothy decided to move in with her daughter, Melissa's family. Before this transition, their relationship had been a source of joy and comfort, marked by daily phone conversations brimming with warmth and eagerly anticipated weekend visits filled with laughter and connection. However, within a mere 3 months of cohabitation, the once harmonious dynamic devolved into a battleground of tension and unspoken grievances. Dorothy began to perceive Melissa's well-intentioned oversight as condescending, as though she were being relegated to the status of a helpless child. Meanwhile, Melissa, overwhelmed by the additional responsibilities, quietly harbored feelings of frustration, interpreting Dorothy's requests or complaints as ingratitude and unreasonable demands. The ripple effects extended beyond the mother-daughter duo, ensnaring the entire household. Melissa's children, the grandchildren Dorothy once doted on, grew increasingly exasperated by constant admonishments to lower their voices or curtail their natural exuberance because Grandma needs her rest. Melissa's husband, caught in the crossfire of this mounting discord, began inventing excuses to linger at the office well past regular hours, seeking refuge from the oppressive atmosphere that now permeated their home. What were once lovely family dinners, occasions for storytelling, and shared meals transformed into strained, silent affairs where each member retreated into their thoughts, the clinking of cutlery against plates serving as the only sound. After 9 grueling months, the relationship between Dorothy and Melissa had deteriorated to such an extent that Dorothy opted to relocate to a senior living apartment. Yet, the scars of their time together proved indelible. 5 years later, their communication has dwindled to rare, perfunctory exchanges, and Dorothy has not laid eyes on her beloved grandchildren in over 2 years, a stark contrast to the closeness they once shared. You might be tempted to dismiss this as an isolated incident, reassuring yourself that your family's unique strength and resilience would shield you from such an outcome. But this is a common fallacy. Every family believes they are the exception until the unrelenting pressures of cohabitation reveal otherwise. The root of this relational disintegration lies in the unavoidable friction that arises when 2 generations attempt to merge their daily lives under one roof. Living in such close quarters amplifies every minor irritation into a potential flashpoint for conflict. Divergent sleep schedules. Perhaps you're an early riser while they prefer late nights, clash incessantly. Differing food preferences spark debates over grocery lists and meal planning. Varying tolerances for noise, whether it's the hum of a television or the chatter of children, breed resentment. Even standards of cleanliness and household organization. Do you insist on a spotless kitchen while they're content with a bit of clutter? Become battlegrounds that chip away at mutual respect. Beyond these practical annoyances, deeper psychological tensions emerge. The roles within the family blur uncomfortably. Are you still the authoritative parent, or have you unwittingly become the dependent child? Are you a welcome guest in their home, or a permanent resident with unspoken obligations? These ambiguities sow confusion and discontent, unraveling even the most robust familial ties over time. So, what is the antidote to the slow-motion catastrophe? The key lies in safeguarding your identity and autonomy as a parent by steadfastly maintaining a separate household. Cultivate closeness through frequent visits. Cherish the dinners, the holidays, the spontaneous drop-ins, but always retreat to your sanctuary afterward. This preserves the dignity of your role and the health of your relationships. If financial constraints make independent living seem daunting, explore creative alternatives. Consider shared housing with other seniors, where companionship and cost-sharing coexist without the baggage of familial expectations. Or seek out smaller, more affordable housing options tailored to your needs. By prioritizing your independence, you not only protect your family bonds but also ensure that your interactions remain a source of joy rather than a crucible of conflict. Number 4. Mental and physical health decline. Have you ever stopped to consider that moving in with your children might not just disrupt your life, it could shorten it? The health consequences of giving up your independent living situation are far more severe and far-reaching than most people realize. A growing body of medical research, including studies published in the Journal of Aging Studies, reveals a disturbing trend. Seniors who transition from living independently to residing with family members often experience an accelerated decline in both their physical and cognitive health. Dr. Michael Forster, a renowned geriatric specialist and chief of geriatric medicine at the Mayo Clinic, explains this phenomenon in stark terms. When elderly adults relocate to their children's homes, we consistently observe a sharp uptick in serious health issues. Depression and anxiety skyrocket, sleep disorders become commonplace, and chronic conditions like dementia, heart disease, and arthritis often progress at an alarming rate, sometimes within mere months. Let's look at Walter's story as a sobering example. At 76, Walter was living independently in a modest apartment, successfully managing his mild arthritis and high blood pressure with a combination of medication, routine exercise, and a carefully balanced diet. He took pride in his self-sufficiency, enjoying his quiet mornings with a cup of coffee and a short walk around his neighborhood. But when his son, Gregory, grew concerned about Walter's occasional forgetfulness and insisted he move in with his young family for his safety, Walter reluctantly agreed, trusting it was the right choice. What followed was a rapid unraveling of his health and well-being. Within just a few weeks, Walter's meticulously crafted daily routines, the very foundation of his stability, were thrown into chaos. His morning walks, which kept his joints limber and his spirits high, became impossible because no one in the busy household had time to accompany him. The family's unpredictable schedule, late dinners, early mornings, and constant noise from his grandchildren disrupted his sleep, leaving him exhausted and irritable. Mealtimes were erratic, often conflicting with his medication schedule, which had been precisely timed to keep his blood pressure in check. The bustling environment overwhelmed him. The chatter, the clatter of dishes, the hum of the television, it all chipped away at his peace of mind. 6 months later, the toll was undeniable. Walter's blood pressure spiked to dangerous levels despite his doctor increasing his medication dosage. He began experiencing anxiety attacks, something he'd never dealt with before, along with persistent insomnia that left him foggy and disoriented. His arthritis flared up painfully due to the lack of regular movement, and his once sharp memory started to falter under the strain. Then came the breaking point. Walter suffered a minor stroke, which his physician directly linked to the chronic stress and poorly managed health conditions triggered by his new living situation. Hospitalized and frail, Walter was a shadow of the man he'd been just months earlier. Think this is an isolated case? Think again. Stories like Walter's play out in dozens of households across the country every year. The reality is that moving into someone else's home, even a loving child's, upends the delicate routines that keep seniors healthy and thriving. Your self-care practices, honed over years, get sidelined. Exercise becomes sporadic, sleep suffers, and dietary needs are often overlooked in a household catering to younger tastes. Relocation might mean switching doctors, disrupting continuity of care at a time when consistency is critical. Beyond that, the sheer stress of adapting to a new environment, new rules, new dynamics, new noises exacts a measurable physical toll on your body and mind. Research backs this up. Seniors who maintain their own households, supported by in-home care services when needed, consistently outlive and outshine the peers who move in with family in terms of health and vitality. So, what's the solution? Protect your health by fiercely guarding your control over your daily schedule and living environment. If you need help, explore professional in-home assistance, caregivers, meal delivery, or transportation services that allow you to stay in your own space. Have you discussed the potential health risks of relinquishing your independence with your doctor? Make it a priority at your next appointment. Ask about strategies to maintain your well-being as you age and weigh the evidence for yourself. Your body and mind deserve that much. Number 5. Legal vulnerability and elder abuse risk. Have you ever thought about how moving in with your children could quietly open the door to elder abuse, even in a family that's always been loving and trustworthy? It's a chilling possibility that too few seniors consider until it's too late. Elder law attorneys across the nation report a troubling pattern. The vast majority of financial exploitation and abuse cases they handle involve seniors who live with family members. According to a comprehensive report from the American Bar Association's Commission on Law and Aging, seniors residing with relatives are nearly 3 times more likely to experience some form of elder abuse, be it financial, emotional, or even physical, compared to those who maintain their own homes. Consider Elizabeth's heartbreaking experience as a cautionary tale. At 77, Elizabeth had recovered from a bout of pneumonia and, feeling vulnerable, agreed to move in with her son, Russell, and his wife. She'd always shared a warm, trusting relationship with Russell, viewing him as her rock. To make things easier in case something happens, she added him as a joint owner on her bank accounts and signed a power of attorney document, hastily prepared by Russell's friend, a general practitioner, not an elder law specialist. At first, everything seemed fine, but tensions emerged when Elizabeth resisted Russell's suggestion to sell her cherished antique collection, a set of heirlooms she'd spent decades curating. To her shock, she discovered Russell had already sold several pieces without her consent, claiming it was for her good, to declutter her life and fund her care. The betrayal deepened when Elizabeth expressed her desire to move back to her own home. She learned that Russell had taken out the new mortgage on her fully paid-off house, a property she transferred to him in a moment of misplaced trust, leaving her with no equity to reclaim it. Her savings had dwindled, siphoned off under the guise of household expenses, and with no financial independence left, Elizabeth found herself trapped. Russell's demeanor shifted. He became dismissive, then controlling, and Elizabeth grew afraid to challenge him, fearing she'd end up homeless if she pushed back. She'd never imagined her son could turn her golden years into a nightmare. Think this kind of betrayal couldn't happen in your family? Elder law attorneys hear stories like Elizabeth's every single day cases where love and trust erode under the pressures of caregiving and financial strain. The truth is that moving in with family creates a perfect storm for exploitation. Proximity blurs boundaries, financial pressures mount, and caregiver stress can push even well-meaning relatives to cross ethical lines. What starts as a small overstep using your credit card for shared groceries can escalate into outright theft or coercion. Seniors become vulnerable when they relinquish control over their assets or legal documents, often out of convenience or a desire to avoid conflict. The statistics are sobering. The National Council on Aging estimates that 1 in 10 seniors experiences some form of elder abuse, with family members being the perpetrators in over 60% of cases. Here's how to protect yourself. Maintain your legal autonomy at all costs. Never add your children to your bank accounts, property titles, or deeds, no matter how much you trust them or how practical it seems. Work exclusively with a certified elder law attorney to draft out legal protections, such as a revocable trust or a carefully worded power of attorney. If your children provide care, insist on a formal care contract that spells out any financial arrangements in black and white, reviewed by your lawyer. Have you consulted an elder law specialist about safeguarding your rights and assets? If not, schedule an appointment this week. Many offer free initial consultations, and that one meeting could preserve your entire estate. Ask yourself this: no matter how much you trust your children today, can you predict how they'll handle the stress of caregiving, a job loss, or a marital strain 5 years from now? People change under pressure, and the stakes to your financial security, your independence, your dignity are too high to leave to chance. Take the steps now to shield yourself legally before love turns into regret. Well, there you have it, the 5 devastating consequences of moving in with your adult children after 70, from financial disaster to legal vulnerability, and everything I wish I'd known before it was too late. What have you learned so far from my story and these warnings? I'd love to hear from you. Please comment below with one key thing you've learned today and how you plan to put it into practice in your own life. Your insight might just help someone else avoid this nightmare. If you found this video valuable, please let others know. Let's keep this conversation going together. We can make smarter choices for our futures.